The Albula Railway is a single-track meter-gauge railway line forming part of the so-called core network of the Rhetian Railway, in the canton of Graubünden, Switzerland. It links Thussis on the Hinterrhein above sea level with the spa resort of St. Moritz in Engadine above sea level. Construction of the Albula Railway was begun in September 1898. The opening took place on 1 July 1903, and the extension to St. Moritz commenced operations on 10 July 1904. With its 55 bridges and 39 tunnels, the 61.67 km-long line is one of the most spectacular narrow-gauge railways in the world. On 7 July 2008, the Albula Railway and the Bernina Railway, which also forms part of the RHB, were jointly recorded in the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites, under the name Rhetian Railway in the Albula, Bernina landscapes. The best-known trains operating on the Albula Railway are the Glacier Express and the Bernina Express. History. Up until 1890, the southeast of Switzerland was extremely poorly served by railways. Alpine transit traffic was drawn to the Gotthard Railway, so that the construction of transcontinental railways in Graubünden appeared not to be economically viable. Only the success of the Landquart Davosbahn led to a turning point. In 1895, the LD changed its name to Rhetian Railway. 2 years later, the people of Graubünden decided, in a referendum, that the RHB would come under state ownership. These two changes created suitable conditions for a rapid construction of further RHB lines, which were intended to open up large parts of the canton. In 1890, the Davos hotelier Willem Jan Holsboer proposed the construction of a rail link from Chur via Davos, and through a tunnel under the Scaletta Pass, to St. Moritz, and then onwards via the Maloja Pass, to Chiavenna in Italy. Holsboer later had to abandon this planned Scalettebahn, in favor of a route through what was to become the Albula Tunnel. In 1895, the Zurich Railway pioneer Adolf Geierzeller presented the idea of an Engadine Orient Railway, which would have connected Chur, via Thussis and Engadine, and over the Fuorn Pass, with the Vinschgau and Trieste. Zeller planned this proposed route as a standard gauge line. It would have passed under the Albula Alps through a 12 km long tunnel from the mouth of the Valtisch to the Inn valley below Bebber. As the Offenburgbahn, the Engadine Orient Railway would also have cut a connection through to the Valmuster. It was only on 30 June 1898 that the Federal Assembly in Bern finally decided on the construction of the Albula Railway. The Federal Assembly thereby also decided against another standard gauge transit railway, and a similarly contemplated railway over the Julia Pass. In 1896, there were only 20 kilometers of standard gauge railway line in Graubünden, and 90 kilometers of narrow gauge railways. Priority was given to the construction of a rail connection to the Spa at St. Moritz, which at that time was a 14-hour stagecoach ride distant from Chur, the terminus of the standard gauge line. After Thussis was reached from Chur, the construction of the Albula Railway began on 15 October 1898. Unlike the Bernina Railway, which was opened a good 10 years later, and operated in fully electrified form right from the start, the Albula Railway was still a steam railway at its conception. Moreover, it was intended to be universally available, particularly for the transport of goods, as the steam locomotives of the time were still not particularly powerful, and in order to permit the highest possible speeds, the maximum gradients were restricted to 3.5%, and the minimum curve radius was also generously defined. Thus, the Albula Railway, in the interests of maximizing its effectiveness, did not test the technical bounds of an adhesion railway. However, such an architectural style required a variety of engineering structures. So, for example, the viaducts were exclusively solidly constructed. Especially problematical was the ascent of the valley between Burgun, Brevoortrein and Preda, where, in a distance of 5 kilometers as the crow flies, a difference in altitude of over 400 meters needed to be overcome. To stay within the maximum gradient parameters, the project supervisor, Friedrich Hennings, devised an intricate alignment, which lengthened the line's formation by 12 kilometers. 2 curved tunnels, 3 spiral tunnels, and a number of bridges overcame the engineering problem by winding the track around like the thread of a screw. On this part of the line, the construction of the 660 meters long Rugnick spiral tunnels in particular led to problems, because the 4 degrees Celsius cold mountain water hampered the activities of the workers. Beyond Preda emerged the centerpiece of the line, the 5,866 meters long Albula Tunnel, which passes under the watershed between the Rhine and the Danube a few kilometers west of the Albula Pass. With its maximum elevation of 1,820 meters above sea level, the tunnel is, after the Furka Tunnel, the second highest alpine tunnel in Switzerland. The creation of the tunnel was hampered by unusual problems caused by outflowing water, and these led to the bankruptcy of the building contractor. A total of 1,316 people were involved in the construction of the Albula Tunnel. Overall, there were 16 fatal accidents involving workers. At 300 hours on 29 May 1902, the breakthrough of the 2 tunnel leads was achieved, at a point 3,030.5 meters from the north portal, and 2,835 meters from the south portal. On 1 July 1903, the opening of the section between Thusses and Cellerina could be celebrated, as the RHB and the St. Moritz municipality were still yet to reach agreement over the site of the St. Moritz station. The inauguration of the 3 kilometers long remaining section had to be delayed to 10 July 1904. Shortages of coal during World War I prompted the RHB to grapple with the task of electrification. On 20 April 1919, the first section of the line to be electrified, the link between Bever and Philly-sur, was energized with the 11 kV 16 2/3 Hz alternating current system used on the Engadine line. On 15 October 1919, the extension to Thusses followed. Since 1930, the Glacier Express has followed the route of the Albula Railway. The Bernina Express was added after World War II. Both of these trains have since operated as spearheads of the Rhetian Railway's legendary reputation as a railway company amongst rail fans from around the world. Since the line was equipped with a block safety system in 1969, remote monitoring of train traffic at most stations on the line has been possible. In 2005, the Rail Control Centre in Landcourt assumed the former tasks of the remote monitoring station at Philly-sur. The Bever substation was modernized in 1973. Successive extensions to the passing loops at the stations has lengthened them to over 260 meters, the equivalent of an express train with 13 carriages. Since the end of the 1990s, the RHB has installed 3 short double-track sections at Thusses, at Philly-sur and below Preda, to make the hourly train crossings flow more smoothly. The remaining parts of the line are single track as before, and are still largely in their original configuration from 1904. Accidents and incidents. On 13 August 2014, a passenger train was struck by a landslide and derailed at Tiefenkasteel, Graubünden. 11 people were injured. Description of the railway. The Albula Railway begins in Thusses, where it connects with the Landcourt-Chur Railway, built in 1896. Behind Thusses station, the line crosses the Hinterrhein, as well as the A13 Autobahn, and enters the Albula Valley, which, east of Thusses, is known as the Schinschlucht. Even at this early stage, it passes many bridges and tunnels. After Solis Station, 8 kilometers from Thusses, the line crosses the Albula for the first time, on the 89 meters high Solis Viaduct, which is both the highest bridge on the Rhetian Railway, and the broadest span viaduct on the Albula Railway. Between Tiefenkastell and Filer, the train crosses the 35 meters high and 137 meters long Schmittentobel viaduct. Shortly before Filer, it reaches one of the trademarks of the Albula Railway, and often also the Rhetian Railway in general, the 65 meters high Landwasser viaduct, which in a curve of only 100 meters radius leads directly into a tunnel through the cliff face at the opposite end. At Filer station is the junction between the Albula Railway and the branch line from Davosplatz. Between Filer and Bergun, the train ascends 292 meters, and runs through the first spiral tunnel. The next section, between Bergun and Preda, is the most demanding example of rail technology on the Albula Railway. In order to overcome the height difference of 417 meters between Bergun and Preda, in only 6.5 kilometers as the crow flies, without requiring excessive slopes or radii, the route is extended by 12 kilometers by various engineering structures. Soon after departure from Bergun station, where an RHB crocodile stands as a locomotive monument, the train climbs once again at a rate of 3.5%. By means of the various structures just identified, the line crosses over itself twice. Rail fans can also view the Bergun-Preda section from a rail history nature trail adjacent to the line. At the hamlet of Naz, near Preda, the line crosses a brief plateau, where, for several years now, there has been a double-track section about 1 kilometer long. Soon after the Preda station, which, at 1,789 meters above sea level, is the highest stopping point on the Albula Railway, is the north portal of the Albula Tunnel. After passing through the tunnel, and the Spinar station at the southern portal, the train descends at a slope of up to 3.2%. to arrive in the Oberengadin at Bever, in the Val Bever. Here there is a junction with the Engadin Railway from Scuol-Tarisp. At the next station, Samadan, the line to Pontresina branches off. The Bernina Express takes this branch, which connects the Albula Railway with the Bernina Railway to Tirano. On the other hand, the Glacier Express follows the main line, via Celerina, to the terminus of the Albula Railway at St. Moritz. Originally, it was planned to extend the Albula Railway via the Maloja Pass to Chiavenna in Italy. At the terminus of the extension, there was to have been a connection with the Italian railway line that runs along Lake Como to Milan. In light of those plans, the St. Moritz station was, and still is, laid out as a through station, whereas on the Swiss side plans for a line through the Bergl reached an advanced stage. There were, on the Italian side, only vague statements of intent for a line proceeding onwards from the border at Castasegna. World War I, and the subsequent economic recession, prevented any implementation of the plans. Today, the Maloja Pass route is served by a cross-border post-bus line. Train traffic. Between Chur and St. Moritz, there are fast trains every day at regular hourly intervals. These trains have been officially known as Regia Express services since December 2004. For the section Thusses, St. Moritz, the fast trains require 1 hour 34 minutes, and therefore travel at an average speed of 39 km per hour. Only the so-called fast train stations are served by these trains. At the other stations, trains have no longer stopped since the 1990s. In Surava and Alvanu, only some trains still stop, and only then in off-peak times. In the high summer season, there are also special tourist-oriented express trains with panorama cars, for which reservations and supplements are required. These trains are the Glacier Express from Zermatt to St. Moritz, and the Bernina Express from Chur via Samadan and Pontresina to Tirano. In addition, there are year-round regular fast trains with direct-through coaches between Zermatt and Tirano. The most frequently used motive power on the Albula Railway is the modern GE 4/4-3 class of electric locomotive, which is also in service on the Furina line. The Albula Railway was once the main stamping ground of the Rhaetian crocodile. The two remaining locos of this class, and the similarly historic GE46s, still operate today at the head of not uncommon special trains. In contrast, the newer RHB locomotives have not achieved the popularity of the crocodiles. However, they are in everyday use, and the operational difficulties they face can hardly be compared with those to be found on other railways of this magnitude and gauge, due to the nature of the route, and the density of the traffic. Additionally, there is, for a narrow-gauge railway, unusually dense goods traffic, which in mountainous terrain takes over much of what would otherwise be carried by road traffic. Almost all of the stations on the line are served with goods trains. The larger stations are equipped with one shunting locomotive of their own. The most important goods transients for the line are timber, cement and other building materials, mineral oil products and foodstuffs. A further area of responsibility of the railway is the transport of cars through the mountainous terrain, together with their passengers. The alpine weather conditions make it impossible to use the alpine passes all year round, whereas with the help of the Albula Railway, the mountain barrier can be overcome without any problems. The Rhaetian Railway therefore offers road users the option of loading their own cars in buses onto special car carriers, for transport to Samadan. On the Burgun-Preda section, there are also so-called sledding trains operating in winter. These are shuttle services, which carry sledders and tobogganers from Burgun to Preda. At Preda, the sledders and tobogganers connect with the Albula Pass Road, which is closed for traffic in winter, and are used as a toboggan track to Burgun. Bibliography: Gian Brunga, Tiber Keller, Renato Mengotti. Abentua Albulaban. Chur 2003, ISBN 3-85637-279-2. Gian Capres and Peter Pfeiffer. Albulaban. Harmonie von Landschaft und Technik. Zurich 2003, ISBN 3-905111896. Hubertus von Salis Solio. Bahnhistorische Lehrfahrt Preda Burgun. Herausgegeben vom Verkehrsverein Burgun. Thus is 51997. Henningwall. Albula Schläger de Graubündens. Aachen 1984, ISBN 3-921679-33-8. Eisenbahn Journal Sonderausgabe Rhätische Bahn. Hermann Merker Verlag, Fürstenfeldbruck 1.1988, pp 34102, ISSN 0720-051-X. Friedrich Hennings. Projekt Hundbau der Albulabahn. Chur 1908. Hennings. Die neuen Linien der Rhätischen Bahn. In Schweizerische Besitzung. Volume 3738, 1901, ISSN 0036-7524, pp 5-7.